Well, President Roosevelt knew that eventually America would enter the war. But since World War One, America had really worked on getting out of the Depression. A lot of Americans remembered how devastating and horrific World War One was, and they weren't interested in getting into a second war. And really, the only thing that was going to get America into the war was a direct attack upon the United States, which would happen at Pearl Harbor. We remained neutral. These laws called the Neutrality Acts were passed by Congress. They banned the United States from providing weapons to anybody, our friends or our enemies. It banned monetary loans to anybody. And it created a system called cash and carry, which allowed the United States to trade with fighting nations, particularly our allies, but only non-military goods, goods that could not in any way be used to help the military. FDR thought that the act actually encouraged the Germans and the Italians to invade more countries and be more aggressive because they knew the United States wasn't going to help them. And Germany had to grab as many resources in Europe and Africa as it could, knowing that eventually the United States would get into war or get into the war. When Germany invaded Poland, the public wanted to help England because England would have been next on their list because France was going to be difficult to help. It was right on the border of Germany, and France fell. Once France fell, though, we were moved. The United States began to ship tons of weapons, and we loaned 50 ships to England to help defend itself. You see a picture of the America's First Committee. This is a committee telling us not to get involved. And this is an anti-war committee, and that is Charles Lindbergh, who was, a great American hero, the first person to fly across the Atlantic. He was staunchly against the war and to some degree pro-German at this time. Roosevelt made this analogy about helping people and getting money back from them if you help them. If your neighbor's house is on fire, you don't sell him your hose. You lend him your hose. You take it back when the fire is out. So Roosevelt was telling the American people he was going to do whatever it took, no matter what it cost, to help our allies in World War II. And we'd work out the details later. This was the Lend-Lease program. To defend England, Roosevelt said it was absolutely vital to American interests in Europe. And he would send tanks, and he would send supplies, and he would send planes to England to help. We would lend them anything they needed. And throughout the war, we lent not just to England, but 40 other countries, $49 billion worth of materials. And for most of it, we were paid after the war. Then came Pearl Harbor. If you can look at the map, this is Japan off the coast of China. So here's Japan right here. Big map of Japan, little tiny map of Japan. Here's California, and here is Hawaii. Coming from California is a little less than halfway to Japan. These days it's actually quicker to fly to Anchorage and over to Tokyo. And here is Hawaii. This is Honolulu on the island of Oahu, and this is also where Pearl Harbor is. This is where the main military base, naval base for the United States is. It's the one that is going to be attacked. Here's a above view of it before the attack on Pearl Harbor. Now, FDR had limited exports to Japan because he did not want to help them in their aggression towards other Asian countries and also to Europeans who were living in Asia. He froze all of the assets or money that Japan had in U.S. banks, and he banned the sale of oil. This time in the history of the world, America is the number one supplier of oil. Oil was not really discovered in the Middle East yet, at least not like it is today. And it was difficult to move it across the country, across the world. They didn't have big tanker ships like they do now for oil. Japan needed resources because we weren't trading with them. Other countries in Europe weren't trading with them. So to get those resources, they were invading colonies in Southeast Asia and using the resources of those colonies to create the machine of war that they would use to fight the United States. Finish this in the next part of the lecture.